This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Manny, how you doing, my man?
Hanging in there, Big O. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing a little better than Mario right now, trying to find an offensive coordinator. What's going on with that?
Well, man, listen, I can tell you from my own
files, and he said, no, I will have none of that. So what's up with that, bro?
Right. Well, from my conversations, we'll say with somebody close, very close to Mario Cristobal, that's the way I'll phrase it.
What's his wife say? Brother?
No, listen. It's just somebody very close to Mario Cristobal. We'll use that as the terminology. Okay. He's this whole process. Okay. Oh, I've tried to explain this to people. When you, for instance, when you go for a job interview, okay, usually you'll ask a question like, "Hey, how much does the job pay?" Right? Now, when you ask that question, you have a conversation over money. And you leave, usually the last thing that person tells you is, "Hey, we'll be getting back to you about the job," right? We'll let you know what we decide. Well, what happens with Mario Cristobal, who has interviewed, I think, upwards of 20 people now for various coordinator positions, okay? Those people get impatient and they go to their agent and they say, "Hey, this guy was talking about I can get this amount of money from here. Let's see if I can get myself a raise from my current employer and see if they'll match that deal."
Oh, I see. So they're using you more for leverage than actually the job.
Well, it doesn't mean that Mario's not interested in that person for the job. It just means that guy is not sitting there waiting all day for Mario to make a decision. And what happens is they take the information, they go to their agents. Their agents say, "How can I get this guy a job?" Well, just say Mario Cristobal talked to us about Miami. So that's the, in essence, what I've gathered has been happening here throughout this process, because Mario, whether other people understand it or not, when he's looking at this job from a two-pronged approach, okay? And I think it's from, just because you want to run a certain offense doesn't mean you can hire anybody to be your defensive coordinator. In other words, the two units have to marry each other, right? The offense has to be supportive of what the defense does. The defense has to be.
Amen.
So I think from a philosophical standpoint, while we've had amateurs in the past at the University of Miami who became head coaches and made rash decisions saying, "Oh, this guy runs a great offense," they never thought about, well, how's that going to affect the defense? And Mario, being under the tutelage of Nick Saban for a long time, saw some things that taught him some lessons. And to him, when you go through this process, you don't just hire any offensive coordinator, you don't just hire any defensive coordinator, because if they don't match and they don't mesh their styles, then you may not win or have the kind of success that you're intending to have. So this is why, from his perspective, this is a very delicate process. And let's face it, he's got a boatload of money to work with. And the guys that he's going after are talented guys that would like to get raises at their own place if they don't get the offer. That a good way to explain it?
Yeah, no, I got it. So what's next now that Bryles is off the board?
Well, I think Bryles and Kendall were definitely guys he was interested in. There are other guys. I mean, Ken Dorsey's a name that has been out there, right? That people have put out there in the past. I know that the list is deep. I don't know all the names on there. Okay, I've been told through people who have worked with Mario in the past that they think he's waiting on NFL guys.
Is Dorsey a recruiter?
Dorsey's not a recruiter. And that's
just his personality doesn't seem to me.
No.
Jack crap in a meeting with parents. Ken Dorsey just looks like the kind of guy that just smart, run your offense, all that, but I don't know about luring players and pumping them up and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's the difficult part of this process is I think Mario wants guys that are obviously good at it all, that are great recruiters, but the reality is, there's not a lot of guys that have it all. It's hard to find those guys. It's hard to target those guys that are great recruiters, great play callers, great communicators, all of those things that you want in a coach. And so you almost, you go through this process. And I'll say this also as an addendum to everything I've said. I think he's also very much aware that there are 7 vacancies in the NFL right now, and he knows shit is going to get shaken up, and he knows guys are going to get hired from the college ranks, and he knows that a lot of the guys that coach with him in college football right now are tired of NIL and transfers. These guys don't want to coach in college anymore. A lot of these coaches, honestly, they don't have the patience for it. It is too much, too demanding.
Yeah.
So while
you're
you
unthinking. Yeah.
while you have those vacancies, those 7 NFL vacancies, it's almost like, okay, I can have great conversations with this coach, but he may tell me, yeah, but listen, if I can go to the NFL, I'm going to do that. So you go through this whole process of interviewing a guy, and all of a sudden, the guy tells you at the end of the conversation, well, I'm also keeping my options open because such and such guy might get the job in the NFL and he may take me. You get it?
Yeah.
So all of this goes hand in hand. I think Mario is taking it from the approach of why hire somebody right now and go through this process where he's so good he might get plucked and go somewhere else once the chips start moving all across the landscape of college football.
All right. So then this process, how long will this process affect recruiting?
It won't. And here's why. Again, this is something somebody very close to Mario Cristobal told me. This is why it won't, because in his mind, he has a offensive line and defensive line coach. And both of those guys, in his opinion, can recruit and sort of hold the fort down, because those are the 2 biggest positions of need for Miami. So when it comes to recruiting talent and bringing guys in, he feels like, look, I've got guys in place at the positions where we need the most help. And I've also got 2 elite recruiters in McClendon and now Kevin Smith, the running backs coach, where they can go and recruit other positions if we need them to.
And you can argue that, your 2 line coaches might be your most important coaches.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the foundation, dude. If you don't win on the lines, you're not going to win anything more often than not. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
At least you can solve, because I know. Look, the Dolphins haven't solved. During the last tenured guy, they couldn't find an offensive line coach, and so that's the good thing. And I got to figure that offensive line coach. I know he brought him from Oregon, but obviously going to be good because that's Mario's thing too. So that's going to be a strength on this team.
And here's something else I will add. Okay. I had the podcast I did yesterday with Rudy Fernandez on the Wide Right. I'm going to plug it only because it was a really good interview with Rudy, who obviously is the chief of staff at Miami. Obviously hired Mario, hired Dan Radakovich. He is essentially the most connected man at the University of Miami because he works for Julio Frank, and they run it from the top. We talked about support staff, right? Which is something that we didn't really get a clear answer on. And I'm going to report this at some point for the Athletic, but I'm sharing it here with you because I work for you, brother. We're a team. He talked about on my podcast yesterday about support staff. And this is one example Rudy gave me. At Clemson last year, where Dan Radakovich was, there were 12 members of the support staff of that were hired in addition to assistant coaches, quality control, analysts. There were 12 additional people. So when you broke down Clemson's roster, divide 100 by or 90 by 12. Okay, what number that comes out to? What one person has every 6 or 7 kids, right? They're assigned to 6 or 7 kids. Guess how many support staff members were at the University of Miami last year?
3. Wow.
1. So wow. I know from talking to somebody very
that's a lot of support. That's a lot of support, by the way.
That's just one example of there's going to be now 12 people essentially at Miami doing a job that one person was doing last year. Okay. And so, for instance, defensive line, right? Well, you think, oh, they're just going to have a defensive line coach. No. Oh, they're just going to have a defensive line quality. No, they're going to have 3 and 4 people at every single position based with support staff, which is what the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Clemsons do.
Right.
And that's why these kids, you talk about, man, who's coaching these guys? Well, it's pretty hard to get a bunch of kids who don't spend nearly the amount of time the old Hurricanes did in the 80s and 90s around the team, because there are hour requirements of how much time you can spend with the kids, right?
Right.
Or hour maximums that you can spend. Now these other people that are part of support staff, well, guess what? They get to be around them. and they get to coach them 24/7 when you're not around. You got it? And that's the difference. And that's the difference. And that's why you say, man, why does Mark Pope still not run the right route? Right? Or why does Gervin Hall try to tackle his own teammates? Well, guess what? That shouldn't happen anymore, because there's going to be somebody in his ear 24/7 as part of support staff, who it's going to be their job and their responsibility to make sure these guys are 100% ready to play a game.
All right, on the recruiting side, what news do we have brewing?
Yeah, well, very big weekend. This is all about the 2023 weekend, the Elite Prospects Camp. Okay. I mean, kids from all over. The number one cornerback in California, the number one defensive end from this state and that state, kid from Washington State, defensive lineman. They're all coming down here between today and tomorrow. Some of them, the really, really elite ones, are meeting with coaches and staff today on campus, where they do all kinds of measurements and all kinds of, behind the scenes stuff that they say, oh, we don't know how fast that kid runs in the 40, or we don't know how long his arms are. Bullshit. They all know, because they use days like today to get all their information. Okay. So all of that kind of stuff is going on. There's going to be an Elite Prospect Camp tomorrow, and 7-on-7 tournaments down here. I don't even remember the names of it. Oh, it's all, but you're going to see tons of recruiting. This person loves Miami, and you're going to see every Rivals 247. They're going to write 1,000 articles about all these kids being down here. As far as the recruiting class itself, the 2022 class, the one that's signing February 2nd, I had a long conversation with Shamar Stewart's position coach at Monsignor Pace. I'm going to have a story coming out tomorrow, but essentially talking about Texas A&M, Miami, and Georgia. He's at Georgia this weekend. He'll be at Miami the final recruiting weekend, but just why all of a sudden he's seriously considering Miami. I think before Manny Diaz and company had dropped the ball with this kid, I think Miami's a real player now for him. I think before we were all like, oh, is Shamar Stewart going to go to Miami? People were writing stories about it. It wasn't going to happen. I think now there's a serious chance because of Mario taking over the job. So again, another elite top 100, 5-star, 4-star type kid considering Miami. Why? Because Mario Cristobal took over the job. That's why. All
right. John Ruiz and company, Maukikawa and Rosenhaus. So they're spending some cash.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this process and why I should not be nervous that this won't blow up in the University of Miami's face, because that is the only thing I think any of us are worried about for the University of Miami, because, man, you just got Mario. The last thing we want to see is Mario's first 2 or 3 years be coaching under some kind of, suspension or probation or crap like that. So what is being done to make sure that things are being done, I don't know, as legally as possible in this wild, wild west?
I had a long conversation with Adam Arnott. I know most of your listeners have no idea who that is, but he is a former walk-on, okay, turned NIL lawyer. Okay, this is his specialty. And very good guy. He helped with the Eric King stuff last year when all this NIL stuff was going on. He continues to sort of follow the process. He's very much into this, all the new law of NIL and marketing, okay? And I went over everything Ruiz has been doing. I talked to Rudy Fernandez, who I mentioned earlier. Rudy, more than anything, here's why I will calm the nerves of fans. Rudy Fernandez and Miami have approved these deals. They've gone through the process that they're supposed to go through with Rosenhaus, with Kawa, with Ruiz.
So everything is vetted.
Everything is vetted from beginning to end. The problem is Ruiz is acting in a way that is all Miami, right? Which is, hey,
loud and brash,
loud and braggadocious. So that naturally there's nerves. But I went over this whole process with Adam, and I learned this from Adam because, look, as much as I cover sports and we follow NIL and we read the stories, the reality is we don't know the intricacies of what's happened with it. But essentially what the NCAA did, for our listeners, is they put out a rule book that was much smaller than the state of Florida ever imagined NIL would be, right? The state of Florida, every state in the country adopted their own NIL laws initially, right? Now what's happened is the NCAA put out their thought process of what NIL should be and the rules around it. And who can negotiate, who can be involved in the process, yada, yada, yada. Well, Florida's one of 15 states whose laws are a lot tougher than everybody else in the country. Okay.
Really?
Alabama, yes.
Oh,
Florida,
so that's
Florida.
that means DeSantis must not be a part of it. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That was.
But essentially, Florida's rules, okay, according to what I was told from Adam, and I believe him because this is his profession. He's a good dude. And Rudy echoed this to me in our podcast conversation. Florida's laws are tougher. They're among the toughest in the country. 15 states whose laws basically say the university cannot participate in NIL deals, right? FSU, UF, they cannot go to people, and companies can't come to them and say, hey, we want to facilitate this deal between us, the school, and the athlete, right? For instance, TiVo in the state of Georgia, where there are no rules, okay? TiVo went to Georgia Tech and said, hey, we want to sign all 90 of your players and pay them $5,000 a month, whatever it is, to advertise TiVo, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They could do it because in Georgia, there's nothing stopping it. There's no state laws, no state legislation stopping that. So they signed all those kids to that deal. What does that do for recruits? Well, it shows them, hey, if you come to school in Georgia, not only can you negotiate your own NIL deals, but the school can help you get a deal. At Miami, they can't do that. Florida, they can't do that. Florida State can't. They can't get involved directly. The advertiser has to go directly to the kid or his agent and set up the deal. So what's going to happen here soon in the next few months is those state laws are going to be repealed or changed in some way, shape, or form, and it's going to become more of what the NCAA suggested, so that Miami can now attract more recruits for NIL without needing a John Ruiz by doing some of these deals on their own.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as it seems like, they're following the rules, then everything will be all right. Because, we have this thing down here that we kind of, view that they don't treat Miami equally compared to some of the other schools out there, especially the NCAA. So you worry. And I think also it's kind of shell shock for all of us because we've gone from night and day from, everything being taboo to now, dude, everything's on the table now. Nevin Shapiro now would be like God at this point. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things that it's a weird dynamic that we're all adjusting to, and we all wonder and worry about, okay, we've seen the ramifications in the past. What will happen if they get tripped up again? That kind of stuff. Plus, the Mario thing, I think, injects a lot of positivity into the organization. People are hoping that now it'll trend in the right way. The last thing they want is to deal with this and not ever see what Mario could possibly be. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just things that make people nervous when they see that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, when you have national reporters like Darren Ravel, who work for ESPN, going into these Twitter spaces and asking all these quote unquote hard questions, right, to Ruiz, and everybody sort of attacking back and forth. And he's writing things like under the guise of a company that opens it. Listen, if the University of Miami ultimately approves these deals, it's on them. Like, in other words, if Ruiz gets in trouble after that, right, that's on UM. They approved it.
You knew what was going on. Right. Exactly.
Right. You acknowledged it now. You went through the process. You had your people look into it. At that point, if you get egg on your face, that's on you, bro. You were aware of it. This wasn't Nevin Shapiro doing stuff behind your back. And I think ultimately, other schools, like the SEC schools, the Big 12 schools that have been doing this for years illegally, they have their quiet, quote unquote, quiet system. We'll see if that changes in the years to come because of guys like Ruiz. Because the more they advertise it, the more that helps recruiting, right? The more it helps these recruits say, man, I'm gonna get to Texas and I'm gonna get paid, or I'm going to Texas and I'm getting paid, or whatever it is. That kind of stuff could be advertised a lot more, and in the end, it's gonna be a free for all. Right now, it's like the Wild West. I think we're heading more towards a free for all than we are the other way with regulation.
All right, there you go. We're going Ted Nugent, baby. It's a free for all. All right, what are you working on at the Athletic, my brother, so folks can check you out?
Yeah, well, certainly that Shamar Stewart story will be coming soon. I'm also going to do something sort of an update on what's going on with the coordinator search, which we've already covered here on your show. I posted something this morning or late last night on Larry Blustein. We all know who Larry is, high school guy who's done so much for recruiting, fighting for his life.
We have the GoFundMe link here on
Great.
our YouTube page, so it's nice
Great.
and easy for folks to just go to the link and make a donation, man. We love Larry, man. Come on, man. Who doesn't, Larry? You know, it's like, I said at the beginning of the show, I said, if you ever run into anybody and they say, I have a problem with Larry Blustein, walk the other way. Don't even deal with that person ever again. Just leave.
Yep.
There's something wrong with that person. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's who Larry Blustein is. You know what I'm saying? It's just great human being.
Great guy, helped me a ton when I was getting off, being the high school writer for the first time, getting off my feet and sort of just guiding me through all the history, man, of Dade and Broward County. We know how rich our county here is with all the great athletes. And anytime I had a question, I'd call Larry, and we've been friends for 22 years now. And just broke my heart when I found out what happened to him, you know, and that he was in the hospital. So I really hope people who know Larry and don't know Larry can at least read his story. Read the story I wrote for The Athletic. It's free on the website. It's no cost to you. You can read that story about Larry and our friendship and some of the things I know about him.
Yeah, let's tweet that one out too. Let's get that one out there. And by the way, we can't announce it yet, but we're inching closer. You might be getting a little more Manny Navarro here on the show. So just be ready, Canes fans. There might be something coming on a weekly basis with Manny and a co-host. Actually,
that's right.
As we continue to expand here on the platform. Appreciate you, my brother. Have a fantastic weekend, and
you too.
Hopefully, maybe in the next week we will have that news. So had a monster meeting yesterday.
All right.
So really positive. Really. If it falls, which I think it's going to fall into place, you're going to be doing something that's really cool. But
all right, I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Yeah, we're working on it, bro. You know me. We're grinding. All right, man. You be good. Have a great week and enjoy the family.
You too. Take care.
You got it. There you go, man. Manny Navarro, baby. Follow him on Twitter, Manny_Navarro. And please subscribe to The Athletic. Support Manny and all the great writers. And we got something brewing, man. We got something brewing. Had a really good meeting yesterday. And I think got 2 shows that we're going to add that are going to be monster shows. And they won't be during this time slot. They will be different time slots. There will be more drive time. And, you know, I don't want to give out too much information because I certainly don't want to, you know, ruin it and give away too much.
This is the Big O Show.